if you're not in the game,
Yeah.
and you're just sitting on the sideline, you really don't understand the difference, the nuances, and the struggles of trying to do the right thing for our people. When I wrote the article about you, you know, and I just outlined everything that every black man in the barbershop, black woman would talk about in the conversations, because I always go back to it, because basically everything that everybody was saying about you, whether she's black enough, does she like black men, she's putting black people in jail, you know, the common things that was actually said. But at the same time, I write that, and I didn't have a conversation with you. When we had the conversation and we talked about it, we talked about the different things. It was almost, and after the conversation, I felt like I was actually certifying you, because we were talking about fried chicken and talking about all these different things. And then we talked about the gun and the FICA score and these different, so it was like, okay,
That's right.
it's like, I like this lady. You know what I'm saying? She's about everything that we're about, the struggles and the things that we have to deal with on a daily basis as activists in our community. And so how did I come to that place? And then that's when I ended up writing the other article saying, okay, this is this.
Right.
You know, because, you know, and, you know, again, we get to the point where we prejudge a person. So then now I'm out here fighting the fight of the same thing I basically wrote, you know, and I'm trying to convince people that, no, that was wrong. Let me ask you, so when you're campaigning and you're doing your strategies and everything, and you're trying to prove to African American women that you're black enough, and African American men that you're black enough, you know who Kamala is.
Yeah.
You've been you forever.
Yeah, right.
And you lived a life, and you lived in the neighborhood. You went to the black university. You lived a life as an African American. That have people question that. How you really
That's
feel
a great
about that?
question. It's very frustrating. That's a great question. Because to your point, exactly to your point, Uncle Luke, it is, I know who I am. I was raised to have pride. I mean, I could go on and on about who I am, right? But and who I was born as, not just who I became. It wasn't like some process of enlightenment. Like this has not been a process of discovery for me. You know, in fact, I think the frustration is that other people want me to take them through their process of discovery. Exactly. About trying to understand it.
Right.
And it's a challenge. I mean, but this is look, all of us who have become the first, you know, part of the challenge is that people have their boxes about who people are. It's in their mind. They have this set of boxes, and they're trying to figure out which one do you fit into, right? But the number of boxes they have is limited to whatever they've seen before, usually, right? And we're asking them to see something that they've not seen before, and then figure out where to put that. I might give you an example, because I have thought about this. If I use this phrase, just close your eyes for a moment and then think about what you see. The boy next door. For most of America, what does that look like?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's the boy next door. 4 words speak volumes about the age, the look, the character of who we're talking about.
You're right about that. Yep.
What 4 words would immediately let you know about who I am? It's not in the vocabulary.
It's not. When people question your blackness, you were on that bus, you were part of the civil rights movement, but the struggle is convincing people that this is a strong black woman who lives a strong black life, and why is there any question?
You're right. It's frustrating. There was this one journalist who said to me, I'm doing this interview, and he says, well, you have family members that went to Stanford and Harvard, but you chose to go to Howard. No, elite schools like Stanford, but you chose to go to Howard. Now, you know, I was ready to hang this thing up.
Right.
I was literally, I was about to go off, which would not have been cool, because I'm trying to get elected.
Yeah. But you went to Howard.
They went to these elite schools, and you went to, and I said, well, you do know that Howard University is the Mecca. Like,
Exactly.
Just put that, let's put that in its place. And so the frustration, to be honest with you, is that, sometimes I'm like, look, I am not running to be Black History professor. I'm running to be president.
Right.
And you all need to figure this out. And you need to figure out the diaspora. People would say it, and I'd say, I went to Howard University, and let me just tell you what that is. If you stand in the middle of the yard, looking around campus, you'll see young Black students who are walking around in lab coats. They're in the School of Medicine. Over there, walking around with briefcases. Over there in leotards is the School of Fine Arts. Over there, right? And so your limited view of who people are, don't put that on him, because you don't have the ability to see, right? The variety and the diversity and the depth of who we are.
And it's sad that people still think that way.
There's still so much. There's still so much work to be done. That is about, breaking barriers and showing people what success looks like, and it's not that 1950s Mad Men version of success.
Right.
Like
Right.
that is still very much in the mindset of a lot of the American public, whoever they are, whatever their race or gender, that's what success looks like.
Being that you from the same hood that I'm from, which Miami is no different than
Yes.
Oakland, no different than Baltimore. When you address the issues of gun violence, because you understand it, and that's why I tell people all the time. Yesterday we were having a conversation with different people, and it's good. I like that because it's authentic and it's genuine when people share their thoughts, whether you put it on social media or not, and you have a back and forth dialogue. Guns in our community versus guns in the community that's down the street from my house, which is Parkland.
I believe it's a false choice to say you either believe in the Second Amendment or you want to take everyone's guns away. That's how I think about gun safety laws. Assault weapons ban. So here's how I think about it. The assault weapon was designed to kill a lot of human beings quickly. That is its whole purpose for being. And there is no room for that on the streets of a civil society. It is a weapon of war.
No question about it. No question about it.
The leading cause of death of young Black men in America is gun violence, and literally greater than the next 9 combined. So of the variety of health or accident, the accidents that cause death for young Black men, the gun violence is greater than all of the next 9 combined.
Wow. The data shows that our kids are getting killed in the daytime. You have education. So when the standardized testing, everybody just focused on the test. So what ends up happening is now the test is connected to the grade point average of the school. So in order for the school to stay open, you have to be at least a C or B school, because a lot of the charter schools have taken a lot of kids out of the public schools. So now you have this big, massive public schools that really was built to hold 2,000 kids. Now it's only 500 kids. So now those kids are going to these charter schools. Charter schools are letting them out at 12 o'clock in the daytime.
Really?
The public schools.
Oh, that's interesting.
The public schools are kicking the bad kids out with a low GPA because they need to have a high GPA.
And they're going to those charter schools.
They're going to those charter schools.
That are kicking them out.
And they're out at 12 o'clock. Mama and daddy is now at work.
Of course.
And they end up at the friend's house doing whatever,
Isn't
because
that
those
something?
are actually bad. They consider them as bad kids, but they should red flag those
Isn't that
kids.
something?
So if you look, and so I started looking at it on a national.
Wow, that's something.
Yeah, on a national level, and say when is killings are happening on a national level because of standardized testing. That's happening in every a lot of cities, inner cities in America.
See, that's what I'm talking about. What you always have to do the math, and first of all ask why, what happened,
Yep.
and then take it back
Yep.
Well,
yep.
you know, one of the things about, running for president, one of my motivations and reasons I'm running is for all of the children that we're talking about, and in particular focusing on public education. Because, you know, back to the point of us being bused.
Mm.
And so one of the things, for example, is I will have a teacher, a nurse and a social worker in every school.
Okay.
Right? So.
Should the teacher have a gun?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I want to give teachers raises, not guns. What they do in their private home, that's their business.
Right.
But not.
They passed legislation in Florida that teachers can carry guns.
No. I do
Right.
not want our children walking into a school and it being militarized and like it's a penitentiary.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm.
No.
Good.
No. But here's the thing. If you look at history, Brown versus Board of Education, which with Thurgood Marshall and all those guys desegregated America's public schools in 1954.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point about the trends in public education, what also started to happen is then all these black children started going to these schools. And a lot of the white families with resources pull their kids out of those schools.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so you can also track what started to happen, which is then more private schools started to be built. And you started to see the resources leave public education.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you talk about the effects that you're talking about as another extension of that trend.
Mm-hmm.
And so you walk into public schools in America today, and you see exactly what you're talking about too.
Right.
Which is it is almost, some say, worse in terms of the segregation.
Mm-hmm.
That has now happened as a result of not necessarily laws that are about race, but certainly rules that are about economic status.
Mm-hmm. I think everything is all connected to education, because if you don't, if kids are not able to get the proper education in, is a tough road coming from that.
I mean, I've started so many mentor programs over the years, and I did one in Bayview Hunters Point, which in San Francisco at the time had a annual household income of $15,000. And I'll never forget. And I went to the president at Howard and I said, please send me boxes of yearbooks. Because I realized that when I would talk to the kids about what it meant to go to Howard, and I would say this huge yard, and I'd say all these kids, and I'd describe it, that I'd see blank faces in the kids. They couldn't picture it.
Right,
They
right.
could not picture it.
Wow.
They couldn't picture it. If you were describing that prison yard,
They can picture that.
they saw that.
Yeah.
And so I got the yearbooks. I got boxes of them so that they could turn the pages and see their faces in the members of the debate team.
Exactly.
And see their faces in the members of the sororities and fraternities.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally so they could see it.
Yeah. I do that. I
Right?
do that every year.
Right?
I take kids from the inner city that play football, and what we'll do is we'll take them on a college tour
Right.
around the country.
Because there's nothing in society that is showing them that if they have not seen it.
Yeah, if they're not
That's
seeing
the
it.
crime of it all.
That's it. That's right.
There's literally not, if they're turning on the TV, there is nothing that will tell them that.
Right. And-
If they're, like literally nobody, in terms of the system, whatever that system might be, is telling our children, this is who you are.
Mm-hmm. No question about it. So what's your take on mental health?
A lot. I've actually worked on it for years. Here's the thing. We have generationally babies who are born into trauma. It is not physiological. It's not genetic. It's environmental.
Wow.
Because whether it be violence in the home, violence in the community, or poverty, which, by the way, poverty is trauma-inducing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And our children are going without the diagnosis and treatment. And so what ends up happening? They act out in class.
Mm-hmm.
What ends up happening? They start self-identifying or being identified as a bad kid.
Mm-hmm.
There's a friend of mine, longstanding friend, who's now the Surgeon General of California, Dr. Nadine Burke, who was running a clinic in Bayview Hunters Point and looking at what's called the ACEs factors. So if a child, for example, has been in foster care or has an incarcerated parent on, and then if you look at these objective factors, you'll see health outcomes that are associated, not directly,
Wow.
but the circumstances create the same situation.
Exactly.
And interestingly
It's
enough,
like a chain.
yeah,
It's
but it's
broken.
all connected. And here's the thing: for years we have accepted this theme that Black Americans have genetically high rates of high blood pressure and heart disease. We have accepted it as genetic.
Right.
Then there were some epidemiologists and some scientists who did, because all of us can be traced back to the original tribe, based on body size and shape and all that. And so went back, and in the original people who are still there, no such heart disease.
Wow.
No such high blood pressure. Well, what happened? 400 years of slavery happened.
Yes.
And trauma,
Was built up through that.
and not genetically, but environmentally, because there'd never been a real intervention to deal with the trauma, and you pass trauma on to children. And it's not the parents' fault, it's about the environment.
It's the environment. You
So
become
unless-
a product,
right?
product of your environment.
Right.
Yep.
And so unless we've had serious intervention, it will go on generationally. And trauma is it is something that is almost like a physical barrier. Trauma can handcuff you.
Oh yeah. But
Right?
and the wild part about it is, like, I have a youth program right in Liberty City, and we have about 800 kids on a year-round basis. Been doing it. This is our 29th year, and those kids that are in my program, if there's somebody gets shot or murdered in the neighborhood in Liberty City, 9 times out of 10, they're one of my kids' little brother, and so there's no programming anything for those children, because they're living, just like you say, they're living in this traumatized household, or they just saw their brother get murdered.
They've been to more
in the
funerals
front yard.
of somebody who was under the age of 25 when they died.
Exactly. Every Saturday it's a new
know.
funeral. It's like going to the
They have a
nightclub.
whole protocol for it.
Yeah.
Like literally,
put
somebody
the
dies,
t-shirt on
everybody
the
gets
shirt.
ready. They have like an
Yeah.
assembly line of things that happen. I know.
Yeah, T-shirt or
I
it's
know.
like a proud
I
thing,
know.
but then just like to your point, those people are somewhat traumatized, but they became immune to it. But technically, you're traumatized.
So to your point, the way that I've always talked about it, like post-traumatic stress disorder is what it is, right? So like an oversimplified way of thinking
Mm-hmm.
post-traumatic stress disorder is like, so imagine there's a busy street, and you're about to cross the street, and a Mack truck comes barreling down. Because it's part of our species survival thing, that you'll produce something without even thinking about it that will cause you to jump back. If every day you're walking across that street, and at some time that truck comes down, at some point, because you're overproducing this thing, at some point you're going to look at that truck and you're going to keep walking.
Yeah, you are. No
You're
question
going to
about
keep
it.
walking.
No question about it.
Because that's part of what happens with post-traumatic stress disorder, that because your body has a natural instinct. It's part of this, again, the survival of the species, to protect yourself. But at some point, you overstimulate this thing, and it just makes you numb.
Yes, no question about it.
Right?
Yep.
What we want for our children is that, not that when they went to sleep at night they were hearing gunfire. Talk about a people who have suffered so much pain as a result of injustice.
The debate is Kamala the cop.
I know.
Kamala the cop. She's going to put people in jail.
I know.
Because that's what she did in California.
When I started, it was during the height of the crack epidemic. And then there was also a lot of gang activity in Los Angeles and some other places. So the California legislature started passing these really draconian, tough gang enhancement laws. And which means that whatever the underlying offense was, if somebody was a member of a gang, the sentence would be even higher.
Oh, okay.
So I'm sitting in my office one day, and I had just started couple years, and there were a group of people outside of my office talking about how they were going to prove a gang case, and because they were trying to figure out with this new law how to do that. And they said, well, they live in this neighborhood, dressed this way, listening to this music.
Oh.
So I stepped out of my office and I said, hey guys, hey Kamala, they said, how you doing? I said, great. I said, you know, that neighborhood, well, I got people who live in that neighborhood.
Wow.
That style of dress, well, you know, my family members dress that way. And,
Wow.
and that music that you're talking about, and I'm going to date myself, Uncle Luke. I said, that music you're talking about, I got a tape of that music in my car right now.
Wow.
And indeed, it was too short.
Wow. So they had to profile you right then.
Well, this is the point, though, isn't
Yep,
it? This
yep.
is the point. This is the
And
point.
That's little small things like that in different office places in America. We don't realize that we're really actually profiling
Right.
people at the same time.
Right.
But-
And that people in power, their perception of things creates the reality for the other people, right? The way that they perceive the people in power, the folks that we're talking about, will have an impact on the way they treat those communities.
No,
Right?
No question about it.
And so if you don't see that what is there right now is that you're looking at a high school honors student, if you don't see that, if you don't see Tamir Rice, if you don't see a Tatiana
Yep.
for being an auntie in her own home, it can have lethal consequences.
Why do we dismiss the fact that the job is a prosecutor and is designed to put people in jail?
Right.
You know, but at the same time, what are we doing to bring people back into civilization, you know, with the programs that we have?
Because there will be prosecutors.
Right.
And so, do you want somebody who's making those decisions, who sees your son for the high school honor student he is? Do you want somebody who sees that young woman and knows her potential? Do you want somebody who understands that this is not that the war on drugs was a failure and criminalized a public health issue? Or do you want somebody who doesn't see that? I mean, I can't tell you how many mothers of homicide victims that I have hugged who came to me and said, I only want to talk to Kamala. And they would come to my office and they would cry. I'd have them come to my and sit on my couch, and they would cry and they'd say, nobody is taking the death of my son seriously. They think of him as a statistic. Had he died maybe by a car accident or cancer, maybe somebody would recognize and honor my grief. But nobody is taking it seriously. They're not investigating it. They're not looking for it. And I want justice for my son. And they would know that they could come to me, and I would see them as a grieving mother and not the mother of a statistic.
Right.
I created one of the first programs in the country. I was elected DA in 2003, which was long before I think the country started to understand that we need to actually reform the system, right, in the way that they do now. Back when I created Back on Track, which was a program about getting jobs and counseling to people who had been arrested for drugs. Like literally, they would have been felons for life. And I said, nope, we're going to dismiss the charges against them. And the whole program is about jobs. It was about seeing these young men as fathers and I would say, I don't care if they're not, I mean, I care, but even if they're not paying child support, doesn't mean they don't love their children. And so we're going to focus on that. We're going to focus on what we need to do around housing. We even had a whole program about it where I had trained them on landlord-tenant law and consumer rights so they know their rights, right? When I created this program, people said to me, what are you doing? You're supposed to be locking people up, not letting them out. People said to me, why are you giving them jobs? Other people want jobs who haven't committed a crime. This mass incarceration system has to be ended. And that's why, you know, as president, for me, it's about ending mass incarceration. It's about holding law enforcement accountable, both prosecutors police and prosecutors, because people talk about police, but also prosecutors.
Right.
And it's about what we need to do to take the profit out of the prison system with these for-profit prisons.
Yeah.
And the profit out of the whole system around bail and money bail, which means that people are sitting in jail every day simply because they don't have enough money to get out. But people who have money for the same offense are walking around free. That's economic justice as well, criminal justice, right?
Yes, no doubt about it.
So these are the things. But I know the system, and I know that as president, let's look at who's on that stage. Before they were running for president, who was working on reforming the system for decades besides me?
Yep.
You know, you've got
And
folks like
they had opportunity.
They had opportunities.
They had opportunities to do different things.
But very few of them, before they ran for president, have a lifetime of experience and dedicating a career to reforming this system. And so, you know, it's real easy for people to, you know, my opponents are going to try and do that because, look, they're also concerned about, like, is she going to get the black vote? We need to try and not make that easy.
Yeah.
We have to believe
one door at a time.
And we have to also believe that these things are possible and not wait for people to give us permission to believe it's possible.